In Elastic 7.2 release, we introduced the Elastic SIEM application. In today's demo, we're going to show you how to quickly get started with ingesting and making sense of your security data with the Elastic SIEM application. Also, we're going to walk you through 3 important features within the SIEM application, making security professionals more effective in conducting their day-to-day jobs. Before kicking off the demo, I want to quickly highlight the demo environment we're going to utilize for today's demo. On the left-hand side, you see a virtual machine actually running on Google Cloud Platform, and this virtual machine is actually running Linux CentOS 7. On the right-hand side, you see the Kibana homepage. Both the Kibana and the Elasticsearch instances behind the scenes are actually running on Elastic Cloud, the public hosted and managed offering from Elastic. To ingest your security-related data, you typically need to set up a data ingestion pipeline. For today's demo, we are actually going to do something very simple. We're going to install and configure AuditBeat in the Linux virtual machine on the left and send security-related data to the Elasticsearch cluster on the right. Kibana actually contains the detailed instructions for you to follow. Simply go to the Security Analytics at Data page. And here you can see a variety of different data sources that we can integrate with to get security-related information. Now for this demo, we're going to click on AuditBeat. And here you see the detailed instructions that you can copy and paste and execute directly in the Linux virtual machine. Now, since we're running CentOS 7, we're going to switch over to the RPM tab and go ahead and copy paste these commands, paste them up in the terminal. This is basically the first step, installing the RPM packages. Now the second step is really just modifying this configuration file for so here you can see that we turn on the AuditD module of AuditBeat, we turn on file integrity module, and also we turn on system module. Now what we're going to look for here is basically this section, right? And we're going to just copy paste this particular snippet into here. Now there is one thing I did want to replace, which is the password. We're going to pause the video and copy paste the password into this. All right, I just have the password filled in. And with this information, there is nothing left that you need to do. You just need to save the file and then follow the instructions to just set up AuditBeat. By executing the setup command for AuditBeat, you're basically setting up the index lifecycle management policies, also set up the index templates, as well as the dashboards out of the box. So, all right, so everything seems to be working fine. And then we just need to kick off or start the AuditBeat service in this Linux virtual machine. All right, now that everything is up and running, we just need to switch back and just hit on check data. And now that we see that data has been successfully ingested and received by Elastic, now let's quickly go to the SIEM app. Here we're actually seeing the overview page of the SIEM application. This page actually presents a bird's eye overview of the data volume in the past 24 hours collected from a variety of different data sources. Remember, in this demo, we only installed AuditBeat in a single Linux virtual machine. So we are not seeing any volume for any non-AuditBeat related data sources. There are actually 3 extra tabs in the SIEM application: the Hosts, Network, and Timelines tab. The Hosts tab basically presents information for all or a subset of your hosts if you have any search query defined within your security environment, and call out any specific behavior that you should be paying attention to, such as the uncommon processes and events. Similarly, for the Network tab, the SIEM application are presenting all kinds of information related to the network entities in your security environment, and again, call out any specific entities or behaviors that you should probably pay attention to, such as the top talkers and top DNS domains. The Timelines tab actually is a repository of all of the working threads by the investigators and responders, where they basically capture and navigate in arbitrary directions of their investigation effort. and either collaborate with their peers or pass that on to subsequent investigators and responders. Let's for now quickly switch back to the Hosts tab. Here, what immediately caught my attention is the number of successful and failed logging attempts in the past 24 hours. If I scroll down the page, I can see a list of the logging attempts in the past 24 hours. I can see that some of the usernames are successfully logged in. Some of the usernames are being attempted multiple times from a variety of different IP addresses. For the super user logging attempt, I can click on this IP address, which will go to the network page showing all kinds of information that we know about this network entity, in this case, an IP address. Since this one is obviously outside of our security perimeter, so we don't know a lot about it, but through integration with third-party threat intelligence ecosystem, we're able to present information that is very useful for the investigators. Here, if I click on the talosintelligence.com, a website hosted by Cisco, I can actually see this IP address is actually coming from a particular country in East Asia. And most importantly, it's blacklisted as of now and also classified as a attacker's IP address. So as a security professional, I immediately know that I do have some malicious logging attempts or attacks in my environment. Now, I do want to remind you how much it takes for us to get here. All we have done so far is a 4-step copy pasting process to set up one single beat to send security related data to Elastic from a single server. And yet right after that, we're able to see all kinds of malicious attacking attempts being surfaced by the SIEM application. Very simple steps, but effective and really, really powerful. Next up, I'm going to switch to another demo environment with a larger data volume and more diversified data sources. I'm going to leverage this demo environment to highlight 3 features enabled by the SIEM application that are very useful for security professionals in their day-to-day job. The first feature is a very user-friendly yet powerful query building capability within the Elastic SIEM application. As a security professional, you always want to ask ad hoc questions along your investigation journey, navigating arbitrary directions within the security events you're collecting without any compromises on your query performance. However, with traditional SIEM solutions, you are either constrained by a set of canned reports or dashboards, or spending a tremendous amount of time composing your query and even waiting for the query to respond. With Elastic SIEM, we want to free you from all of that. As you look at different places within the SIEM application, if there's anything you want to start drilling down, you can actually drag and drop that UI component into the timeline UI widget. Then behind the scenes, the SIEM application will take that query clause and build a query, sending it to the backend Elasticsearch cluster and getting back and presenting all of the security events matching that particular query. Right here, you can see that I have over 3,000 events matching this particular query criteria. Now, as a security analyst, I can go ahead and navigate and look at different places. If I feel like I want to drill down with the username Jacob Doe, I can actually drag and drop this username into this query builder and drop it here, which will essentially create an AND query clause. And as you can see here, now my events in the timeline is narrowed down to about 141 events. By looking at this timeline, I get a clear picture of what this user is doing. Now, one thing really caught my attention is the pipeline.sh script he's executing. I can also drag and drop this UI component into the query builder, which will generate another AND clause, which will further narrow down my total number of events matching 3 clauses in the query builder down to about 10 events. With the 10 events, this is basically within my comprehension level. I definitely understand or have a better picture of what this user is actually doing on the server in this particular time window, right? If there is any white noise you want to get rid of, for example, the library caching file, you really don't want to see that in your timeline, you can actually drag and drop that into the query builder. But this time, we're actually going to negate this one. so that my events in the timeline is further narrowed down to about 5 events. Very clean picture in terms of what this user is trying to do. Very nice and very easy to use feature for me to ask ad hoc questions along my investigation journey. The second feature is collaboration via timelines. At this point, we have already identified some suspicious user behavior on a particular web server, and the 5 events proving that. We can go ahead and give this timeline a name. Optionally give it some description, and then we can further put a note. The notes here fully support Markdown syntax, so I can write a snippet of Markdown and preview it, making sure everything looks correct, and then hit on Endnotes. And this notes will basically be tracked underneath this particular timeline. Later, either my peers or downstream investigators and responders can pick up my timeline, continue to refine it, and take further actions. One last thing to note is all of those timelines can be associated with Kibana spaces so that different teams and people only get access to what they have access to. So again, the timeline feature is great to facilitate collaboration among peer analysts and responders. And with Kibana spaces, everything can be fully isolated and secured. The third feature within the SIEM application is generating human-readable narratives from your security data. So as we can already see here, in this timeline, out of the 5 events, each single one of them is actually rendered in almost a human-readable text. So for example, this one basically says, in this session, this user on this server in this directory executed a particular script with the success result. This narrative of text is actually generated from the raw security data you're collecting. So as a security analyst, if you want, you can still drill down to the raw security data, but the narratives rendered in the timeline view is just a nice way for you to understand and making sense of your data set. One interesting thing to point out is that the event rendering engine within the SIEM application is actually optimized for each different data sources. For example, here, if I'm going to drag another different host into the query builder, I'm going to see extra information rendered in the timeline. Pay attention to this particular event, which is a network traffic data point versus a shell executing event collected by the auditd module. This one is rendered completely differently. However, the key information from a network perspective is actually presented here in terms of how many packets from the source to the destination at what time. This kind of human readable narrative is definitely going to help me boost up my productivity. Before we wrap up today's demo, I want to point out that the 3 features we highlighted today are actually building blocks for future iterations of the SIEM application on top of Elasticstack. I highly encourage you to download or start a trial on the cloud, experiment with the SIEM application, and let us know your thinking and feedback. Thank you.